get stuck here, the cops won't bother me. First quids, I wanted to talk to you guys about the pros and cons of riding this FJR1300. I've ridden it for quite a bit, so I wanted to kind of give you the heads up on this bike. This is 2005, so it's kind of like the first gen, but I think it still applies to the newer ones. Let's get started. Just because I'm giving you cons doesn't mean that I hate this bike, and I'm giving you pros as I see them. Now, I did have quite a few of these large touring bikes, FJR 1300 types. I had a ST 1300, I had a ST 1100, I had an RS 1100. All of those have shaft drives, and to get started, one of the things I really like of this bike is the shaft drive. The shaft drive on this thing is phenomenal, and I do like that you can get this bike and just ride it, and it's as close to maintenance free as you can possibly get. This thing is superior. I haven't seen any problems, even in researching groups, with the shaft drives failing. Now, one of the problems on BMWs is that their shaft drives do fail. This one, it's pretty much one of those quote-unquote bulletproof items. Bike has got a regular moto tire, and as you guys know, I have dark-sided tires before, and I found that this is a very good bike for dark siding. The only thing you have to do is change this arm, the brake arm over there. It might touch the wheel, so you would have to like adjust it somehow. The looks of the FJR look amazing. I like how it looks. It looks very much like a sport bike. And the cool thing about this, you know, on the ST that I had, when you remove the bags, it looked really bad. So on this one, I think you just have to do that. You just kind of pull it up and just push it up, and it is out of the way. It really just hangs on to this little rubber bit there. But when you look at the bike without the bags, it looks really good. And normally the ST 1300 looked absolutely like crap. So easy to put back. This bike is absolutely one of the more comfortable bikes I've ever had. And, you know, with a touring bike, of course, you're going to have that. The seat, and this is the stock seat, it's a two-parter seat. And you can remove this and then this to access the underneath. I also have a Corbin seat that I don't like using. And this thing is just super comfortable. Now, the FJR goes 150 miles an hour. And it's essentially a sport bike, a very heavy sport bike. And that is one of the cons. It is heavy. And you can tell the heaviness because when you move this thing in the garage, it's just so super heavy and difficult. In my driveway, it's got a little bit of an incline. So to push the thing up, it is quite a feat if you weigh 150 pounds. And the tank is a 6.6 gallon tank, so it sits really high. I don't really like that, they made this bike so heavy, and then you have a massive gas tank, which, by the way, does not get very good gas mileage. This thing gets 35 to 40 miles to the gallon. The ST with a 3.5 gallon gas tank gets the same range that this one does because it gets 70 miles to the gallon. So I know that moving this bike around through the air with this massive motor is one of these things that it's going to guzzle gas, but it's almost unbearable to like fill it up at the same time that I have to fill up the NC. These handlebars, you're getting this massive amount of wind protection. That is another super pro of this bike. It's just so comfortable. The wind protection on this is just so good. And the build quality of this is so excellent. I've never seen a bike with as high of a fit and finish. The Honda ST 1300 also had a really good fit and finish, but this one I think is a little bit more refined. It does have an electric windscreen, which something tells me that it's a little bit too much, and it just adds to the weight of an already heavy bike. A con of this bike is that the battery is located here, and in a way it's good, but also I think the con is that it's high up. Normally you would have a battery underneath the seat, and the SD I believe had the battery underneath the seat. Now I don't really remember, but having a massive battery here just adds to the top heaviness of this bike, and it does feel very top heavy. When you're riding this thing, sure, the weight goes away, but only goes away for these very smooth corners. In low speed cornering, you do feel the weight of this bike quite a bit. This is a sport touring bike, but it's actually more emphasis on the sport aspect instead of touring. I do see this as being a much faster bike than the ST1300 or the BMW RT, but it does feel like a very grown-up sport bike. It doesn't feel like it's a touring bike at all when you ride it. If you ride in very, very hot weather, when you have your legs here, the engine heat builds up over here. This is not as bad as the ST1300. The ST threw tons of heat on your legs because the cylinder's kind of poked out to the side. But on this one, your leg kind of fits here, and that's a good thing in a way, because if your leg fits here, the wind is going to be deflecting from here, but it also creates a lot of heat. So if you live in a hot country or hot state, this is not a good system. The adjustment for the rear shock is very lacking, and at this time I would expect a little bit more adjustability from Yamaha. My V-Strom had way more adjustability for the preload, and this is a little bit too simple, I think. It's nice that you just go from hard to soft, but I wish there was a little knob or something that you could adjust it and make it a little bit more custom. A very good pro in my book is having that oil filter right over here. Now this is a reusable filter, so a lot of people are not going to have this. But if you have a regular oil filter, you can just use your hand and it will drain out. Now a con is that this plastic is going to get covered in oil. This is an electronic button, and when you turn on the key, it should open up very smoothly. But now it's on and it is not turning on. This is the problem with a lot of these little electronics that bikes have. They tend to go away after a while. If the bike starts to age, these things just fail. So keep that in mind. And with so much plastic, you're basically going to get, over time, you're going to lose bolts. Things are going to be coming off, and then you're going to have to reinstall everything. I think that's one of the things I don't like about sport bikes is the plastic. In the beginning, you look at the plastic and think it's really cool, but then it just becomes a pain in the ass to maintain. Because just to work on this bike, it's a world of plastic. And I don't particularly like taking plastic out. I think that's one of the reasons I like the NC and the V-Strom, no plastic. If you guys saw my carburetor clean on the Ninja, same issue. That thing is just the plastic galore, and you have to constantly be removing plastic to work on. Let's turn on the bike here. Before I start it up, this is really antiquated. I mean, this is something that should be like an 80s bike, except you have the digital part over here. Another bad thing about this bike, it's like 35 miles to the gallon, so even though you have a range of 250 miles, you're going to be constantly going to the gas station because this bike is so comfortable. It's almost like a car. And this is antiquated. One thing that pisses me off is that the font size for these numbers are very different than this one. This one almost looks cartoony compared to this. They should have made it a little bit bigger because it's important, but not that big. The turn signals up here look really ridiculously large, and I just don't like this entire shape. I know it goes with the flow of the plastic, but it just doesn't look very good. At the time this came out, it looked good, but not anymore. And of course you have the digital thing. You only have 2 buttons, so to change the trip So this one's got 49.921 miles, so 50,000 miles, which is nothing for an FJR. The good thing about FJRs is that they're going to last almost as long as you are going to be lasting. The engine is just so amazing. And look at this. You can click whenever it starts blinking. That's the one you reset. The time is off. I haven't even messed around with it. And then you have your dummy lights here. I don't know why they decided to put like this kind of silver backing on it. It's not that good. Let's go ahead and start this. Push the starter. And this one's got LED lights. Very good lights. And this bike sounds amazing. That's another really good thing about this bike. It just sounds absolutely fantastic. So those are some of the pros and cons as I see it of the FJR. I really like it. It's a great bike, but it is heavy. And if you're used to riding bikes like the NC, going to this is going to feel like a world of a difference. But it is an amazing bike, and I just kind of feel like it's wasting away in my garage because it kind of deserves to be ridden across the United States. And if I keep it, I'm probably going to do that. Alright guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.